Today I'm running it back with more Gruul monsters. This deck is very, very close to the one we ran last week. There's only a couple changes. The big one is I'm trying out Rootwire Amalgam. It's an instant creature to slam, and the fact that you have the potential of making something absolutely ridiculously huge, either with a pump spell or with just other ways of making it larger. But it also serves as a 2-drop if you want it to. That can still get bigger. Seems like it holds a decent slot in here. You can play it early, you can play it mid game, you can do some wild stuff with it. So I'm gonna give it a shot. Only other big changes: pulled a couple other creatures out, and are kind of just jamming with this. So we'll see how it goes.
I will play Ketria Trio. Go ahead.
All right. Um, hmm. I'll play Prismatic Vista and crack it.
Sure.
I will grab a basic forest. I'll cast Mox Ruby.
Sure.
All right, and then I will dash Ragavan and go to combat.
Yeah, go for it. You hit Cleek.
Cleek. All right, well that's just gonna stay exiled, and I will make a
Yep.
treasure, and then what's the treasure token? There we go. End of turn. I'll get my monkey
Yep.
back.
I'll draw a card. Play Wooded Foothills.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Would you like to cut?
Uh, Half.
Half. Okay. Draw one. Okay. Hmm. I'll play a forest. I will
Yep.
try to dash Ragavan again.
Dash Ray Van is good.
Go to combat.
I'll crack this.
Okay.
I'll grab a Badlands, and I'll let
Yep.
him to fire one to the monkey, one to you.
Okay. Monkey will bite it. Your go.
Haven't even found the Badlands yet. Oh, it was the next card. That's why.
Ha.
Perfect. Is my glare okay? There's nothing not visible or
No, your stuff's all
cool,
looks good, readable, and
cool,
everything.
cool. Cut.
Just in half.
Pardon? Just half. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Untap. Draw. Interesting. Play his Scalding Tarn.
Mm-hmm.
I will crack it for Underground Sea,
Okay.
and all Inquisition of Kozilek.
Oh. Well, that's mildly disappointing, but okay. Um I have land, Wildborn Preserver, and Mistcutter Hydra.
What does Mistcutter Hydra do?
It's X and green, can't be countered, haste, protection from blue, and it gets X +1/+1 counters on it. So
Okay. And the Preserver does
it's a
that?
flash 2/2 with reach for 2, and then whenever another non-human creature enters the battlefield under you control, you can pay X. When you do, put X counters, +1/+1 counters on Wildborn Preserver.
I will take the Mistcutter.
Figured.
I will cast Ren 6.
Okay.
I'll tick up on Scalding Turn. Yeah,
All
just
right.
take a,
End of
if
turn,
you want
I'll
to.
crack my treasure to cast my preserver.
Yep.
All right. Untap. Draw. Ren's at 4.
Yep.
Okay. Um, I'll
I
play
can
this.
see. Oh, yep, that's fine. That was the correct thing to do.
I'm going to play Firelit Thicket. I'm going to cast a Questing Beast.
That was a pretty good draw.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll swing everything at you.
I take 6.
And 4 damage goes to Ren and 6 off of Beast's trigger. Your go.
That one's pretty good. I'll draw. Hmm. I'll play. I'll cast Impulse.
Okay.
Grab that one. Put the bottom like this. It's not going to matter. I'm going to play turn and crack it.
Okay.
I'm going to find Volcanic Island and cast a Dreadbore on the Questions.
It is straight board.
Go ahead.
All right.
Please don't draw another Questing Beast.
I didn't. All right. I will cast a Gruul Spellbreaker.
Here. That one has Hexproof as long as it's your turn, right?
Yeah, me and it have hexproof on my turn. It has Riot, so
Yeah.
that'll go on the stack. Wildborn Preserver's trigger will go on the stack. I will pay 2 into Preserver to give it 2+1/+1 counters, and then I'll give Spellbreaker haste and swing
Okay.
for 7.
Sure. I'm down to 2.
Your go.
Draw. You got it.
Okay.
Questing Beast. That was
Yeah.
a good draw.
That was like probably the best card I could have hit right there.
Good to go.
Yeah, I'm all set.
How about you also show me your hand?
Okay. I have Mox Emerald, Deathrite Shaman, Wasteland, Scalding Tarn, Caves of Chaos Adventure, and Fury.
Interesting. I will. Play energy, so go ahead.
Okay. Draw. I'll play Scalding Tarn.
Yep.
I'll cast Mox Emerald.
Sure.
I will cast a Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah, that's fine.
And also go.
Provocative. I'll draw.
Okay.
I'll play Fire.
Okay.
Go ahead.
End of turn, I'll fetch.
Sure.
Alright. I'm just gonna grab a tapped Stomping Ground.
All still in your end step.
Sure.
I'm gonna find red black and tap this for blue, and I'll drown a lot, killing the death.
All right.
So I go to 16.
Right. Yeah, because fiery.
Yeah.
Cool. Would you like to cut?
I am good.
Okay.
You're fine. Do you want to cut?
Just in half.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. Untap. Draw. I will play Wasteland.
Yep.
I will cast a Bone Crusher Giant.
That's fine.
Go ahead.
Sure. Mystic Sanctuary tap. Go ahead.
Okay. Uh-huh. I'll cast a Noble Hierarch.
That's fine.
Go to combat. Swing
Go
for
for it.
5.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm down to 11.
Okay. I will. I'm gonna wasteland your Badlands.
I will float black in response.
Okay. Pass the turn.
I will pay 1. I'm gonna impulse instead.
Okay.
Mhm. I like a couple of these cards. Grab this one. Back these. Untap. Draw.
Mhm.
Really awkward. Go ahead.
All right. Um, Go to combat.
I will, yeah, go to combat.
Swing for 5.
Exalted Trigger on the stack.
Yeah.
I'll pay 1 and I'll attempt to lightning bolt Bone Crusher.
Okay. You'll take 2
So,
more from the
yeah,
Bone
so I'm
Crusher
down to
trigger.
7 because I.
Oh yes, also that.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I'll play this Verdant. I'll crack it.
Sure.
I'm gonna get just a basic forest and then try and cast Chaos Adventure.
I'll return my Mystic Sanctuary days it.
Okay. It is your go.
Draw. Mystic Sanctuary. Go ahead.
All right. Let me shuffle a little bit here. Would you like to cut?
Half.
Say no?
I said half. So,
Half. Gotcha. Okay.
yeah,
It got garbled. So
all good.
cool. Untap. Draw. Uh-huh. I'll try and cast an Undermountain Adventure.
All force pitching evasive action.
Okay. You go.
Let me please. Oh, thank God. 3 mana right now. I will. Fetch for Underground Sea.
Mm-hmm.
I'll cast Snapcaster Range during a
Okay.
lightning bolt.
Sure.
I'll pay 1 and bolt the Hierarch.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. I'll cast a Skull Clamp and say go.
Cut.
We'll just say half.
Sure. Untap. Draw. Haste cards are kind of. I guess I do just die to Questing Beast in general. Or Lightning Bolt. That's also quite awkward. Cards in hand 2. Fury Unknown.
Fury
Yeah, I lose
Unknown.
to, yeah, I'll lose to a bolt. I'll take them and play Fable.
Oh, okay. Oh, I forgot your fetch damage. Yeah. All right. Yeah, you
Yeah.
got a Fable.
I'll make a goblin.
Okay.
I will say go.
All right. I am recording some voiceover, some commentary, rather than have the audio from in-game play, because the in-game audio is actually just me. It somehow didn't capture any of the things that my opponents were saying. So, this match, I am up against mono-white taxes, human taxes. This one's sort of a more aggressive, low to the ground version with plenty of 2/1s for one, and human tribal stuff a little bit, not like no Rick or anything, at least currently, but Champion of the Parish, even Cavern of Souls, that's basically always going to be unhuman, things like that. Whereas Gruul Monsters is, I mean, you've seen it. I think the deck does have sort of a disadvantage into the taxes matchup because you're both have a lot of potential for explosive starts, but the disruption that the white deck has access to gives it a better edge because your Gruul disruption is kind of non-existent as far as they are concerned. A Magus of the Moon, Blood Moon type effect isn't really going to stop them from casting anything. And your guys being huge is your biggest benefit, but they do have a lot of removal and they can, leverage the protection creatures, Mother of Runes, Giver of Runes, etc., to make it harder to attack into them effectively, even if you do get to ramp out something burly like a turn 2 4/4 trample. Regardless, I think, Gruul Monsters can still win it, but I have run a fair set of matches against Yeti on this, roughly this incarnation of the deck, and you're not favored, it doesn't feel like, unless you just get one of those ridiculous draws that can put you over the top, like, regardless of what they're really trying to do. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do here. I had the mock start. I've got the Ancient Tomb to slam, a bunch of board presence immediately. And I'm just trying to, push as much damage as I can as fast as possible before Yeti has a chance to stabilize the board. The Reckless Stormseeker is a fantastic card. Thing does a lot of work, handing off haste to creatures, even if it's only one a turn. It's usually all you need, and then you give it a little bit of a boost. And boy, if you ever happen to flip it to nighttime, that backside is absolutely wild. You're just absurdly huge. You're handing out +2/+0 trample and haste, and you're going to be closing the game out pretty quick, assuming you have like any pressure going on. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. Palace Jailer puts me in sort of an awkward position where I am going to try and swing to take the Monarchy back and get Stormseeker, but he can chump block and keep me off of the Monarchy and get an extra card on his next turn and then leave me in a worse spot. So my main plan here is to do whatever I can to get through and connect. So with my draw, I present another haste threat, Uvenwald Oddity, which means that if he does have some kind of removal, let's say Solitude, he could block and exile, but I also have the Chain Lightning to remove the blocker. So now there's basically no way he can stop me from taking the Monarchy back and getting Reckless Stormseeker back under my control, which is just a lot of stuff on board compared to his empty board, as well as taking the Monarchy. So that game's over. And that's basically my route to victory, is just putting a lot of pressure on him really quickly and overcoming whatever removal he has through raw stats. And he has some very scary openings, but I also have more accelerants in my deck, so I can pop stuff out faster, theoretically, more consistently anyway. Unfortunately, he had the mock start this game into Luminarch, which is already presenting an issue. Staring down Adelaine on turn 2 is not great, since she can grow ridiculously fast and just end games almost immediately. So with that position, I am kind of on the back foot and forced to figure out what the best way to handle this is. I have a Moloch in hand. I have Ancient Tomb, which means I can deploy the Moloch. I could fight the Luminarch and stop, like, the gradual, consistent counter growth. Or I can take out Adelaine, who is, the immediate huge threat. So I opt to fight Adelaine. Adeline? Whatever. Get her out of there, keep my Moloch in play. I figure I can kind of like chump slash trade with Luminarch, assuming it pumps itself. But Umezawa's Jite means it's going to be a bad trade because it's going to take out Moloch and it's going to take out birds. And he still has something to equip onto while I am punching myself to play almost any creature. I have a Miglos in hand, and I figure I can deploy Miglos, take one hit. If he hits me for 3, that's fine. If he saves the counters, that's also fine. But then untap, pop the Umezawas, and be in a pretty commanding position because that equipment is most of his board presence right now. The 1/1 counter is, or the 1/1 token is not doing a lot on itself. That is my main game plan. Unfortunately, he has Phyrexian Revoker, and then he revokes Miglos, which means it is no longer able to get rid of Umezawa's. Can't activate any of the 3 abilities it has. So I just take the one, hoping I find like a piece of removal for Revoker, so I can get rid of it, then get rid of the equipment. I do not find anything, otherwise I would have happily slammed it here. So I am just trying to figure out how I can survive for the next turn. The human is going to be swinging in for potentially 7. If I play anything more than a 2-drop, basically, I'm going to be at 8. And while the Revoker is unlikely to get through, he's also probably not swinging with it anyway. So I'm probably going to be forced to chump block with something. And I'm trying to decide, is it worth jamming multiple guys out to have extra chump blocks? Is it worth trying to set up for something that could be good on a later turn, but I may never actually get that later turn? And like, chump blocking is essentially just trading my creatures for some counters off of the equipment. So this is a very unexciting prospect. So I'm now obligated to chump block anything that happens with his guy, which means if he has removal for Miglos, I'm going to be dead. But I figure if I can swing in, get rid of the Revoker. Yeah, this was probably wrong. I mean, if I exert on the human, then he spends 2 counters. It goes back to the 1/1. Or it goes to a 1/1 with a 1 counter Umezawa's, and he would get to only swing for 3 potentially, and I could just make an easy block on it. Although then Jite would still finish off Miglos. But yeah, that was probably better, just trading. Although then Revoker is still around, and I have no action. This is just a very awkward spot. I'm kind of priced out of playing most of my cards because of the damage that I'm dealing myself to do it, and the Umezawa's just keeps me from getting anything going. Also, Revoker to stop my way to remove it. It's a good card, it turns out. Been worth 1 point for a long time, got bumped up to 2 points more recently. I don't know if it's actually a 2-pointer, but in the matchups where it's good, it is very good. So, I get it. I understand why. If you're wondering what's going on there, the little stack of sticker deck cards, 10 cards to shuffle, is just like hard to feel like it's sufficiently randomized. So I asked my opponents if they're all right with me just rolling d10s and letting the dice decide what cards I pull out of the sticker deck, and most of them are okay with that as a substitution for trying to sufficiently randomize a little 10 card deck. Also saves time. And that's kind of why I've been doing that. So going into game 3, I'm on the play at least. I have more fast mana than he does. I've got 3 Moxen, I've got just a pile of mana dorks, and the land enchantments also adding to my ramp out abilities. But if I can't, if I can't pull ahead, if I can't like take the driver's seat, essentially, I'm not going to win. This deck does not really come from behind against a monocolored aggro deck most of the time. I mean, there are draws where you can pull a Shadow Spear on Thrun or something and like race whatever they're trying to do potentially, but odds you get that are going to be pretty low. Check my 7, I'm good with it, so I fetch. Forest, of course. I specifically have white border forests so that I can go find them easier when I'm searching my deck, because they are often one of my primary targets, but I actually just go Forest Pass. Not a great feeling. This hand is probably not something I should have kept. It seemed okay at the time, but it just doesn't really have enough pressure to follow through on the game plan of trying to overtake the game against human taxes. I saw the saga and I thought that might be enough inherent presence value slash racing potential with Shadow Spear that I figured I could kind of get there with it. But yeah, I think I should have tried to mulligan maybe a little bit more aggressively for just something with more of an out of the gate start instead of trying to grind out an already pretty grindy deck. But he's got Kithion. Kithion has some pretty good late game potential. If you can flip him, that's a really strong planeswalker to get out. So I opt to flash in Wildborn Preserver and offer the trade since he doesn't have 3 mana yet to make him indestructible. He accepts the trade, of course. I could have not blocked. I could have held the Preserver to start putting counters on it with the ability of playing non-humans. But I figured since my next 2 turns were going to be pretty heavily committed to activating Saga, it just wasn't really worth the effort and time investment to, have a very gradually growing guy. On the other hand, my constructs are also not that fast growing in this deck. This is not a super artifact heavy deck, so maybe it was worth not trading there and just trying to outpace him with something that can grow with all my spare mana on any given turn, as long as I'm playing a dude, since there's basically no humans in the Gruul Monsters deck. I hold up my Saga activation, of course. No reason to chump block, especially if I'm going to be grabbing a Shadow Spear. Yeti's... I believe Yeti's already cut his Mind Sensor just to fit in more raw power off of the human package, so I'm not really... There's not really much I can do about him eating a Saga trigger anyway, but, it's not something I'm going to play around here. Now, in this position, I'm kind of already behind on board, and assuming I do another construct, grab Shadow Spear, I get to have 1/3/3 sphere, or 1/3/3 construct, and then a 2/2. Facing down his Champion of the Parish, Little Thalia, and Charming Prince. It's not a great spot to be in. So I decide I'm gonna let the saga go, not do the second construct, because it's not really going to help this board that much. I decide that I kind of need to dig. No? Oh yeah, this isn't the one where I get clamp. So I decide that I need to do something other than just make a 2/2 with my turn. So we float mana from Saga. We get the Shadow Spear because that really is one of our best options for racing against his start, especially with Perish. And we use the mana and a new land for a 4-drop, which is Undermountain Adventure. Obviously, he can very easily steal the initiative back, but with Shadow Spear and the Adventurer, it's going to be hard for him to hold it unless he already has removal in hand, which is an option, of course. He might have removal in hand. The white deck does get to play a good amount of very powerful removal spells, but if he doesn't, Undermountain Adventurer is a good way to just sort of take the game away. But he goes for Recruit of the Guard, grabbing a Solitude and immediately exiling the Adventurer, meaning that my big threat is non-existent, and he is presenting a ever-growing army on the board. No good block there, so not much point in trying for it, but I'm again sort of facing down a ton of power very quickly, which is just not the spot Gruul Monster wants to be in. There are cards that can overcome this. There are draws that can get past it. A Thrun could, hold the board, get Shadow Spear going, and potentially go to town. But that is not what I've seen, not what I've drawn so far. So we have to go with a different sort of game plan. Mostly to not die. And if you're just playing cards to not die against taxes, that's kind of a bad spot. Thalia, I don't think was really restricting me off of anything here. I did not have a great yeah, so I decide I'm gonna take the chance to trade with his remaining 2 creatures and maybe snipe the initiative. He's fine taking it, so I slam the Goyf. Because if he doesn't have any other removal, this thing's huge, and Goyf with the spear can actually kind of race what he's trying to do. I forgot about Forge, of course, which makes his champion just ridiculously huge. On top of him slamming down. Okay. And then the Palace Jailer just kind of puts me out of the game completely. There's essentially no chance here. Even if I do something like snipe the initiative with a hasty creature, I need it to be a hasty creature small enough that, or cheap enough that I can Shadow Spear to get trample. And I do find it, but he has the chump block, of course. Oh, my camera cut out here, I guess. I was having all kinds of technical difficulties on Saturday. I don't know if my new setup is just bad or what, but there's definitely some problems. I think, oh, I guess he did let me take the initiative back. I think I put the counters on Tarmogoyf, which was definitely the wrong choice, because Tarmogoyf having to chump block the champion of the parish here means that I just threw counters on something that was going to die anyway. And it was almost certainly going to have to chump block, assuming he had like any human or whatever. So I've put counters, I've forged onto Goyf, and am now going to pay the price for my hubris and have to sacrifice the Goyf effectively. Line Sash is also generally good against Goyf. So, it was not going to be that useful long term anyway on this board. but yeah, putting counters on him was very very unuseful. I probably would have been better off going for the scry to dig for something. But realistically, once champion gets big enough, there's basically um, nothing I can really do to remove it. The removal in the deck is all toughness based, and I just kind of have to treat it like it's the abyss. When it gets to this stage. So he's at 20. I can Shadow Spear and Smash, which will, put me out of crackback for lethal territory slightly, like only barely, because uh, the white mana exiling all the permanents and yards means that Champion of the Parish can get very big. So rather than try and get Shadow Spear going, I decide I'm going to go for chump blockers. I'm going to just play a bunch of little chump blockers. That way I can sort of hold out the turn, and if he doesn't have removal for Canker Bloom, I can get rid of that Sash, which would be nice. Notably, I have trapped him down to 10. He has not trapped me yet because he only swung with champion. So, most anything getting through here is going to put me very close to dead, which is why I'm sort of forced to make all these blocks. Sash on its own obviously can grow big enough. Champion is big enough, and then 4 damage off of the other two means I go to 1 if I take it all. Instead, I opt to go to 3 and trade with a Palace Jailer. He is playing Ephemerate, so trading with Jailer is relevant just to keep blowout of exiling multiple of my guys. But he's made a wide enough board here that I need something amazing. Basically, I have to draw a Fiery Confluence and clear the board off, like 3 damage to everything, and then chump block next turn to survive. But I also need a land to cast that Fiery Confluence, and well, I don't have it. So I see if he wants to chump block or anything. He does not. Draw another card, see if I can find something that saves me. But all I've got is a bunch of little dorks to slam down. Now, yeah, the werewolf is actually pretty good because I can block and then sack to take out Sash, which is kind of like blocking twice. The thing is, there's still 2 other guys, or 3 other creatures, so I need 2 more blockers, meaning I'd have to play 3 more 1-drops to survive the turn and just chump block with everything to do it. Alas, I do not have 3 more creatures that I can play in a single turn. I can only play 2 more. So, yeah, we're just dead on board, unfortunately. And he untaps and makes the bold choice to swing out. Takes him a second to decide if there's anything else that matters. Nope. Everyone's coming in, and I'm just dead. All right, this time we're facing down Exalia again. Playing against Planeswalkers is interesting. It's a very high potential deck. There's some very scary starts it can have. Show and tell into Omniscience is particularly hard to beat for a deck that's playing so many high drops and high power cards. So I'm kind of just hoping I can wipe him out before the combo potential unlocks, or he just doesn't draw the right stuff. I get a Mox Jet start, which is kind of the weakest Mox. I mean, it's very much the weakest Mox in the deck, but it is still a Mox, and it taps for mana, so it let us play Shadow Spear turn 1, and then it is letting me put down a Minsk and Boo turn 2. Pretty good Minsk and Boo on turn 2. Not a bad opener. Giving us a lot of options on turn 3, either smashing in for 7 or, potentially drawing 4 cards. And unless we see something, unless he goes off right now, I think this game is probably going to be a pretty easy win. But he does have the potential. Even a show and tell for like something burly, Emrakul or something like that can be very hard to overcome. My best bet at that point would be like throwing the boo at his face and hoping I can, I don't know, draw back to basics twice. That's not even quite enough, is it? No, I guess that'd be exactly enough, but also not possible. So we have a show and tell. It's a scary card to see happen. I'm sorry, that's not a show and tell. Let's solve the equation. So I do get like one extra turn here before the show and tell. He's going to solve for show and tell, of course. And I need to decide what my game plan here is. I can go for a swing for 7, but if he show and tells into something sufficient, then that's not really going to matter. He's still alive and can just wipe me out, right? There's the show and tell. I get to take my turn. So I kind of decide that I'm going to throw the hamster. We're going to throw Boo at his face to draw 4 cards and see if I can hit something like a Blood Moon effect or, something that can make show and tell a lot worse. There's the question of, do I want to equip Boo with Shadow Spear before I swing? It would be an extra card. It would be an extra 5 life. The life doesn't really matter that much in this matchup. The card might, but if I tap down for the Shadow Spear, that locks up a lot of options on what I can do with my draws. So I just opt for the throw a 4/4 at the face and draw 4 cards, which is a pretty good mode. Caves of Chaos Adventure, more initiative. I figure if he doesn't win immediately, then this gives me the best chance of closing out the game next turn. 5/3 Trampler that can turn into a 7/5 Trampler. Combined with the Boo or the Minkskin Boo throw could be enough to do it. But that is assuming I'm not just dead to whatever the show and tell does. And on that matter, I kind of just have to hope that I'm not immediately losing the game. So he casts show and tell. I get to pick a fun card. This is the test slot for this tournament. The Root Wire Amalgam. It's a 5/5. I think I talked about it in the deck discussion. But anyway, the big idea with this dude is that it can turn into triple its original size. So if you prototyped it, it can turn into a 6/6. But if you cast it the hard way, it can actually turn into a 15/15. He puts out a Traxa, the new Traxa, so 7 power, 7 toughness, flying, lifelink, touch, vigilance, and get a bunch of cards for free. Which means it's going to be pretty hard for me to attack for enough to kill him, you know, natively. But since I am already at 6 mana sources, and the token gets haste from the activated ability of Amalgam. That means that if he can't like kill it for free, that I get to make potentially a 21/21. So after getting a grip of cards off of Atraxa, there will be land play and maybe something else, but as long as he's not sitting on like a bounce spell or a castable removal spell, the token can just kill him, because I can throw the spear on it and then it tramples over Atraxa and does more than enough by itself. So Chrome Mox exiles Ralzeric, which means bounce spell's the only real risk at this point. I'm not going to get swords. But I do decide that I'm going to go big. We're going to forge 2 +1/+1 counters onto the Amalgam. Going to play land, activate the Amalgam here in a minute. The other question is I could just throw the token, kind of. Again, if there's a bounce spell that doesn't work out as well as I would like, but it is an option. I also forgot to make a boo token here. Poor hamster. It's just not there. But yeah, so we'll make a golem. It's currently a 7/7 from the forge, which means the token I make is triple that size. So it's a 21/21 haste golem. The Atraxa can prevent 7 damage. It can gain him 7 life. However, with the Shadow Spear, it becomes a 22/22, which means the 14 essentially that Exelia would gain is just enough not to save him. Plus the Caves of Chaos, the Caves of Chaos adventure also swinging in means you know, I'm still overkilling by a little bit. Blocking the Chaos adventure obviously doesn't help that much. The 22 Trampler is still enough damage. So Golem gets there. Game 2. Exelia does play a lot of tri-lands, so you will see a lot of turn 1s with, you know, a tapped land coming out for him. Frequently also they are fetched. But, you know, the fact that he can cheat really big stuff out sort of makes up for the fact that you're sort of slow out of the gate. And he goes top. We got top fetch land. So we'll see if he's feeling like he wants to stack his deck, draw, and then maybe crack afterwards, or what. I just kind of take the slow play of Stomping Ground tapped with my fetch, since I didn't have a turn 1 play. And go into good old Wrenn 6. I have some more aggressive options in hand, honestly. I could have like played a 2-drop creature, but I have some higher power 4s. So I decide that it's better to make sure I hit my land drops for the next however many turns than it is to get a little bit of pressure in this turn. Given that a lot of the higher drops have haste, you know, giving up this turn for them It's probably a reasonable trade. He goes for Oath of Nissa after fetching with a tropical island, I believe. It was upkeep, top, fetch, after draw, and then Oath of Nissa. So cuts, pulls 3 cards, and it's a whiff. No legal Oath of Nissa targets. So that's it, I guess. If I can hit Wasteland here, it's going to be game over very quickly. But yeah, he just passes. He's stuck on 2. I'm not going to be missing land drops for a while, for the foreseeable future, as it were. Just getting some more basics out in case I decide, or in case I get the Blood Moon effect. Obviously, Blood Moon is fantastic against a 5-color Planeswalker deck, but I did not hit it. Furnace Punisher is pretty close second. It's a lot of damage. The 2 each upkeep is a pretty fast clock, and can also just be enough to clinch it before the opponent has enough time to stabilize. Like if you get them down to 2 and you pass and they don't have the 2 basics, they just die on upkeep, you know? Even if they have their removal spell when they untap, they can just bite it before then, potentially. Furnace Punisher is part of why I was willing to sort of skip turn 2, because the effective 5 damage a turn makes up for taking 1 turn off. Okay, get another fetch land. So found land 3, just a turn late. Opts to crack it. I guess there was some other good stuff on top. So he activates top to draw it. Gets, I think that's Underground Sea. And then yes. Apparently he stacked it wrong. He wanted a different card and did not put it second from the top. So the top activate drew a different card than what he was hoping for. It's easy to make mistakes sometimes, especially when you've got a lot of things going on and maybe are feeling a little annoyed that your oath whiffed, and you know there was good cards in the oath that you wanted and had to put on the bottom, even though it didn't give you an actual card in hand. So yeah, I've been there. Go for a 4-drop here. I was sort of expecting like a bounce or something to happen, although bouncing away 1 creature is not especially good, especially when I also have Wrenn and 6 in play. So, you know, taking me off a land is not that useful. But we do Bloodbraid Elf into Bloated Contaminator, swing in for 6. I decide if I want to ping or get a land, and yeah, I just pick up the land because, you know, whatever, I can keep making land drops. Knock him to 8 on upkeep. So this is kind of do or die time. If he's got something, he's got to do it now, and he doesn't.